Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is David Talbot. I'm Managing Director, Head of Research here at Red Cloud Securities, and I'm delighted to host another Red Cloud webinar on uranium today. Today we're going to hear from Basin Uranium CEO Michael Blady. Now, during today's webinar, he will provide an overview and outlook, and then we will take some questions, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. Please type your questions into the chat box at any time. But before we kick things off, first we need to discuss the fine print. During this Basin Uranium webinar, forward-looking statements may be made. I direct listeners to the forward-looking statements outlined on page 2 of Basin Uranium's corporate presentation, and that can be found on the company's website, basinuranium.ca. For Red Cloud Securities, Inc., I'd highlight this webinar as for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note this call does not consider the particular situation or needs of individual investors, and participants should rely on their own investigation, seek their own professional advice before investing. So please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud webinar website for specific disclosures on Basin Uranium. So with that, Michael, why don't you kick it off?
Hi, David. Thanks for hosting again. As always, just getting the presentation up here. So this is our presentation as of the end of March 2023. Basin Uranium Corp, we trade on the CSE under the symbol NCLR and the OTC in Frankfurt, as noted in the bottom left corner. Had some new developments since the last time we spoke. Finished off our work program for 2022 in the Athabasca Basin and have acquired a new exciting, more advanced project in the U.S., in particular on the border of South Dakota and Wyoming, just in Fall River County on the South Dakota side. So as David said, I'll be making forward-looking statements in this presentation, so please read our cautionary disclaimer at your own leisure. All right, so Basin Uranium, we've been undergoing a bit of a shift over the last 6 months here. We've now acquired a diversified portfolio of both U.S. and Canadian exploration assets. Our new flagship project is the Corp property in South Dakota, USA, which I'll touch on more later. We also have the Wray Mesa in Utah, just outside of Moab, and of course Mann Lake in Saskatchewan, Canada. All three of our projects are located adjacent to or near producing or production-ready assets. So we have some really good closeology going on. And in terms of exploration, all projects have seen a significant capital outlay from previous operators and ourselves included, in particular Mann Lake. So in 2023, we're looking to unlock value in some of our more advanced projects. We're assessing the ISR amenability and building off historic results on our US projects. And we're also planning some follow-up work in Canada as the market dictates, if we can get into a good window for raising some flow-through capital. Sorry, my computer's just a bit slow here. Here we go. So if you guys were part of the webinar in October, this is the same slide from October, and it basically just breaks down the future of green energy, why we think uranium is definitely the future, as it produces the least amount of CO2 equivalent emissions per gigawatt hour out of any power generating commodity. So we're excited to be in the uranium space, and it's definitely the future of green energy. Again, another slide just looks at the global uranium demand, and we have operational reactors compared to proposed and planned reactors that are under construction. So we can see there still is a big demand moving forward over the next 15 to 20 years, where a lot more uranium will be needed, which suits all uranium producers and exploration companies for a good upside moving forward. So most recently, we acquired the Corp uranium project. We acquired an option for 90% on it. This was done just last month here. The Corp project is a very exciting project that was in the Union Carbide stables for many years. Union Carbide drilled out a historic resource on it back in the late 1970s and early 1980s. There's been nearly 500 wells drilled on the project over several different zones. In terms of a resource, historic resource, which is non-43-101 compliant, I want to caution everybody, look at about 2.4 million pounds of uranium in their internal measured and indicated categories, with another approximately 1.4 million pounds of potential reserves from their drilling they did back 35, 40 years ago. This resource kind of has a global grade of about 0.11% uranium, which fits well into current day ISR amenable projects. So the mineralization on the core is very similar to uranium deposits that you see in Wyoming. They're hosted within a typical roll front deposit of Cretaceous age rocks in the Fall River and Lakota formations. In particular, this project tends to lie in the Chilson member. Back in the day, this project was always contemplated as being an open pit and underground uranium mine. The ISR potential has never been evaluated. We know there are significant portions of the resource that are unoxidized, which is the key for an ISR project. So we feel as a company that the most important thing is testing the ISR amenability on this project. And if it does turn out to be amenable, we'll be able to unlock significant value from this project. So just a bit about the location here. We're located about 3 miles east of Encore Energy's Dewey Burdock project, and that's in East Fall River County in South Dakota. The Dewey Burdock is fully permitted, and Encore's latest disclosure, they're planning to put this asset in production as their next producing asset. And right now they're kind of scheduling 2025 as a timeline. The project, as you can see here on the map, is just over 3,000 acres. We're looking at some opportunity to acquire some additional ground. I said we have an option to earn 90%. That is basically contingent on the project being ISR amenable, which will be our first stage of work, is to permit and then to drill some monitoring wells and start evaluating the project as a ISR project. So the Dewey Burdock itself is quite a unique project. It lies right on the border of South Dakota and Wyoming, just on the South Dakota side. It hosts a resource of 17.4 million pounds at a very similar grade to what we're seeing at the Corp, about 0.116%. A PEA has been done on Dewey Burdock, and basically with ISR production, they can produce uranium at a all-in sustaining cost of about $28 $4.88 per pound of uranium, which in today's uranium market is a good money-making operation. So very excited to be getting a hold of this project and looking forward to getting to work on it right away. We're in the process of filing our permits right now at the Corp, and I'll be actually heading down there next week to meet with some of the local officials, the state and U.S. government, and we'll be trying to move this thing forward as quick as we can. South Dakota, from time to time, has had some negative publicity for permitting. ISR is the cleanest, greenest way of mining uranium. Basically, you're building a water treatment plant, a municipal water treatment plant. You're pumping down oxygenated water into the formation of interest, dissolving the uranium and pumping it back to surface and treating the water while separating the uranium. So, very low impact to the environment, very small surface footprint, and very environmentally friendly. As you can see here, this is a snippet from the Union Carbide report that was published in the early 1980s. You can see measured tons of just under 800,000, indicated tons just under 300,000. Corp is basically kind of where we're going to be spending most of our energy immediately in the near term here. It's the most advanced project we have in our stable currently. Wray Mesa is a project that we picked up last year. It's in Utah, just outside of Moab. We closed the acquisition in May of 2022. Wray Mesa is also adjacent to EFR's facility of a bunch of historic uranium mines. We were fully permitted on Wray Mesa, where we have the capability to drill up to 49 wells to continue to build on the mineralization at the Dillon, Ajax, and Whiskey mineralized zones. Right now, Utah's experienced one of their cooler, wetter winters as a lot of the Midwest has. So there's still a lot of snow on the ground, and we were hoping to get out there and do some field work early this year, but that's been pushed back due to the conditions currently. So Energy Fuels deposit, which is adjacent, is host to a measured and indicated resource about 4.1 million pounds of uranium, plus 21.5 million pounds of vanadium, which is quite interesting. The uranium mineralization hosted in San Juan County typically has a vanadium credit that's 4 or 5 to 1 in comparison to the uranium mineralization present. So for critical metals moving forward, definitely an interesting project because the vanadium potential on the Wray Mesa has never been evaluated. So we would expect to see a similar ratio once we start core drilling at Wray Mesa. And yes, we have received that positive permitting decision. We didn't get 50 holes, but we got 49. So we're happy with that and fully permitted, ready to go with our drill contractor and geologic team basically standing by till we decide to commence work. Just a bit of a zoomed in property map here where we can see some of the drilling highlights. Again, about 495 holes drilled, historically drilled back in the 70s, bit higher grade here. We're also seeing mineralization a bit deeper. We're in the kind of 500 to 600 foot zone, so just under 200 meters for those who use the metric system. In terms of grading, we're seeing horizons from 2-3 feet to up to 11 feet thick, with grades ranging anywhere from about 0.1 up to 1% U3O8. So an exciting project again, with no work being done on it over the last 40 years. It needs a full revisit, and also looking at the potential of the location of aquifers on this project to see if there is any solution mining potential. But right now, we haven't evaluated that potential as of yet. And then moving on to Mann Lake. Mann Lake was the first uranium project we acquired. We acquired it from Sky Harbor Uranium. So it consists of about 8,500 acres, and it's located in some prime real estate in the eastern Athabasca Basin. We're effectively on strike of McArthur River Mine, located about 25 kilometers southwest, and we're also about 15 kilometers northeast of Cameco's Millennium deposits. So those are two premier deposits in the world. McArthur River, of course, being the highest grade, largest uranium mine in the world at 392 million pounds of 7% U3O8. So in 2022, we drilled about 6,800 meters at Mann Lake, and we completed 2 geophysics surveys, a gravity survey, as well as a ZTEM airborne IP survey. The targets we focused on in 2022 were all located to the southeast of the project along some of the main conductor structures. So here's some of the results. So completed just under 6,300 meters. Holes in purple were phase 1. Holes in green were phase 2. There's actually 4 holes drilled in phase 2. We had to abandon MN 22006 and re-enter with a wedge. That's why there was a bit more meterage than we intended, and we weren't able to complete our 5th hole. But we did hit uranium mineralization. We did hit a lot of pathfinder elements, including a lot of dravite, which is a boron-rich clay, which is used as a pathfinder for McArthur River and other deposits in the area. Our best intersection from 2022 was MN 22002, a lot of 2s. Intersected 323 ppm U3O8 over half a meter, about 30 meters below the unconformity within a broader 7.2 meter interval of anomalous uranium and graphite mineralization. Starting at 650 meters, MN 2204 intersected 46 ppm U3O8 over half a meter, 8 meters below the unconformity. And then MN 2207 intersected a large section of anomalous gravite and some uranium mineralization. In 2207, which was our phase 2 result, we intersected about 41 parts per million U3O8 over half a meter, and that was actually right at the unconformity, which was at about 670 meters depth. So right now for 2023, we've kind of been working with our geologic consultant, and we do have some additional targets. As of right now, with kind of where the share price is and our market cap, not immediately planning to go back there, but if the market improves and we can get some share price appreciation, I think another flow through program is definitely warranted at Mann Lake. We've covered about 3.5 kilometers of strike in that southeastern corner. There's still some large areas that could use a drill hole to further evaluate the potential. But overall, it was a successful 2022 drill campaign, which was on budget and provided some good results for future exploration. So for 2023, as I said earlier, core is going to be our focus moving forward in the near term. So right now we've started the permitting process, both state and federally. Like I said before, we'll be heading down there next week to try and finish off the submittal process and have meetings with all the government bodies that are making the decisions down there. And then immediately upon receiving permits, we'll be looking to move into our initial confirmatory drilling and hydrogeological testing, where we'll be drilling some monitoring wells, which is also a very helpful and friendly thing to be doing for the state. We'll be providing them access to all the data from those hydrogeological wells, those water wells, and they'll be able to use that in their own models for the state aquifer network and system. So right now, here's the current management team. Tim Henneberry is our technical advisor. We're in the process of bringing in a new U.S.-focused technical advisor. So we'll be meeting with I'll be meeting with a few groups down there next week to bring on someone that's very knowledgeable and has a lot of experience in ISR exploration and permitting. So the cap table right now, currently we got 43 million shares out, so we still have a very tight float. We got just under 14 million warrants, fully diluted 58 million, sitting around a market cap of about $5 million, and we have about 800 grand in the bank right now. So yeah, we have enough to move forward on our phase one at Cord, which is going to be about 400,000 or so to put in the monitoring wells and drill a few test holes. And yeah, hoping to have some success and get back and show that it's an ISR amenable project and continue working to advance our other projects. So here's our peer comps. So some of the other juniors in our sector and relatively where we are as ranked by market capitalization. So I think that's about it for today. So I will open the floor up to David and some questions. And yeah, thanks for listening and apologies on the technical issues.
Great. Thank you very much, Michael, and happy to have you back there. So good presentation. So we're now going to kick off the Q&A portion of the webinar. So reminder to everybody online, you can type your questions into the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. So Michael, I guess to start, Saskatchewan and Utah are very well-known uranium jurisdictions. South Dakota, not so much, although I would say that Dewey Burdock project is probably one of the better projects in the U.S. That's owned by Encore right now. And it's also not far from Cameco's past producing Crow Butte mine that's just below there in Nebraska as well. But really, what attracted you to these areas? And would you say that you're focused on one jurisdiction over another at this point?
Yeah, so I think, originally we wanted to be in the shadow of the head frame, which is kind of a typical strategy for explorers and junior miners. So, the Athabasca Basin, of course, being the largest and highest grade uranium district in the world, was a no-brainer to enter there. We like the U.S. moving forward just because the U.S. is almost exclusively dependent on uranium coming from outside of its borders. And we think that as we move away from a kind of globalized economy, the U.S. is going to be making some large headway to bring production in domestically and create some great benefits for exploration and development of uranium projects. So that's why we're kind of switching our focus to the U.S. I think right now is the first time in over 40 years that you have bipartisan support in the U.S. for uranium mining. Not since before 3 Mile did we see that in the U.S.
No, it has been a while. But and given these U.S. projects, do you find that you have a lot of investor interest out of the U.S.?
We are starting to see that now. We just acquired the Corp project. I haven't been able to put out as much material on it as I would like as of yet, because we're still trying to pick up some additional ground and close a couple more deals here. But, our plan is to really focus on the U.S. aspect, the U.S. investors, and hopefully obtaining some capital from U.S. sources.
And the Corp project, it is a roll front deposit, as you said. The project hasn't seen much ISR evaluation, unlike a lot of the other projects in the area. Is this something you're going to look at this year? You mentioned you are putting in the monitor wells, but are you trying to study to see if you can go ISR route on this?
Yeah, that's kind of the key for this project. If it is amenable to ISR mining, I think it unlocks a lot of value for the project, and that's kind of how our deal on the project is structured. Is if this thing is amenable, everybody's going to benefit from that. There was one study done in 1983 where they did briefly look at the aquifer. They tried to characterize the aquifers in relation to the known mineralization. And they said the conclusion basically was it looks quite promising, but there wasn't enough monitor wells drilled to confirm that. So, we've studied the old reports and we're confident that we're going to have some success here. Now, with that being said, there are some of the smaller deposits or mineralized bodies that are oxidized, but the majority of the mineralization is currently in an oxidized state.
Right. And is there a need to expand resources here as well, or at least very least confirm the 3.2 million pounds?
So right now we're not focused on expanding the resource as of yet. First and foremost is seeing the amenability for ISR. I think that there'll be lots of time to do that once we check the first and most important box.
Yeah. How deep are these? Is this mineralization?
So the Viking, which is the October Jinx, which is the largest mineralized body, it's sitting around 400 feet in depth.
Okay. So we're well below the water table.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, great. And how much do you need to spend to get your 90% interest in the project?
So we made a cash payment up front, but now it's basically an all share deal that's based off of milestones. So one of the milestones is getting permits to do our aquifer characterization, and then resource development is another milestone as we grow it, and then production. So it's a relatively inexpensive deal in terms of cash.
Okay, great. Looking a little further south into Utah, your Wray Mesa project, you mentioned it's fairly permitted, and you talked about further drilling. Do you have a handle on potential scale of mineralization here and the several zones already identified on the property?
We do. Again, similar to Cord, we've kind of cobbled together a lot of the old exploration reports, a lot of the old gamma logs from exploration. It's been kind of these projects are always a bit of a mystery. You're chasing clues and chasing down data. So, right now it's kind of sitting at around 2 million pounds between the top three mineralized areas there. One thing with the Wray Mesa is one of the mineralized areas, there's quite a bit more relief than you would like to see on an ISR project. The thing about the Corp is it's in the middle of a nice flat field, and it sets up well for ISR mining.
Mm-hmm. Is ISR mining really necessary at Wray?
It's not, because we have the higher grades there. It's not necessary at all. But when we're getting to work, we're gonna look at that as well, because two of the areas, the Dillon in particular, is very flat as well. It's as you move east on the Wray Mesa that you start getting into more relief.
Plus, you've got the White Mesa mill in Utah that's owned by Energy Fuels, and you're sitting adjacent to one of their projects as well. So, have you entered any discussions with them at all, even at this early stage?
We haven't yet. We have been talking to Encore a bit here, so we've started talking with them about the Corp project. Wray Mesa, we want to get at least one exploration program under our belt before we start talking to EFR. And definitely in the cards moving forward.
Good. No, good idea. Give them something to start talking about.
Yeah.
So your Mann Lake project, some nice grades up in the area. Millennium's I think 2.6%, MacArthur around 7%, but I believe production's still up near 20. Phoenix is close by, so you're in the right neighborhood. When you were drilling, were you targeting basement-hosted mineralization, or were you targeting unconformity style? Around the sandstone basement interface.
So in phase one, we were more focused on the unconformity style mineralization. Phase two, we changed after we completed our geophysical surveys in between phase one and phase two. There was more of a science-based argument that potentially the conductors could be basement hosted. So we did drill deeper holes in phase two, as you'll notice by our press release. We were drilling about 600-meter holes in phase one, and in phase two we drilled roughly 800 meters to 850-meter holes. And we did hit some polymetallic mineralization down there. But, it seems like from the limited amount of drilling we've done, we're kind of more unconformity hosted than basement hosted there.
Okay. And you appear to be sitting on this project, or at least that's the sense I'm getting from your comments earlier. I think while investors love high-grade potential, it's not always the easy route. So is pausing the drilling here at Mann Lake a function of just needing flow-through financing, or do you think that the projects in the U.S. that might be a little bit easier to develop is the route to go?
Yeah, I think you nailed it, David. Mann Lake is high risk, high reward. It's not. It's a tough project to work unless you are able to put $5-6 million a year to exploration, right? So for us right now, we are kind of more focused on the low hanging fruit. We fulfilled our exploration expenditure requirement on Mann Lake, so we don't have any urgency to go back and do work right now. We want to try and create some value and get our market cap up, our share price up, and then when the time is right, we'd love to get back to Mann Lake.
Mm. Okay. And what sort of budget is planned for 2023, and how do you think you'll split it between the projects? You mentioned about half of your current cash to Corp, for example.
Yeah, that's right. So we're still in the process of finalizing our budget for 2023. The big question mark for us is the timing on permitting for Cord. We do have some Forest Service land to deal with, so that's one of my first meetings when I'm getting down there, is going to meet some of the decision makers at the USFS. So, I would like to see personally. I would like to see about $1 million spent on our U.S. projects this year to move them forward. But again, it's going to come down just to timing and raising capital here in the next little bit.
Sounds good. So apologize for circling back, but another question came through. But any thoughts on where you might process uranium from Cord? So lots of ISR projects up there, multiple mines. I think Dewey Burdocks in a couple years, Peninsula.
Yeah. So we've kind of, Dewey Burdock 3 miles away, something that could be done. We're actually going touring a few ISR mines as well while we're down there, so I'll get a better sense of that when we're down there. But right now, the biggest thing is to go through the checklist, and step one on the checklist is to confirm that it is a bona fide ISR project. Yeah.
Energy fuels, uranium energy, UR energy, chemical, lots of plants out there.
Yes.
So lots of choice. Excellent. So, we're coming up to the final question here, but I guess, do you wish to continue to expand your project pipeline through M&A, or are you at the point where exploration is really going to take center stage?
I don't want to say no either way. I think we're always looking at projects, and you never know. Sometimes when you're not looking, you find a good project. So I think we're just going to keep our eyes and ears open as always. But no, we have a good pipeline right now. I want to start focusing on exploration. We're going to do a little bit of in-house stuff that'll be inexpensive to hopefully add some more value through a couple more projects in the area, and then get to work.
Sounds good. I think the word you've used in the past is opportunistic. So
You betcha.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate you speaking to us today.
Thanks, David. Always a pleasure.
Okay. Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in. Just a reminder, Red Cloud will be back on Wednesday morning. I will sit down with Forces Metals and talk more uranium. So that's April 26th at 11 a.m. Eastern. So just a reminder, that is a morning session. Okay. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael.
Take care. Bye-bye.